Have you ever stopped to think that the modern anxiety around who is the father of whom is actually a luxury product? A recent invention, packaged in plastic, sold with free shipping, and accompanied by a colorful report that promises 99.9% certainty about something that, for tens of thousands of years, humanity resolved without spending a single cent on cotton swabs. We have convinced ourselves that paternity was a biological mystery, locked behind 7 keys, a secret code that only science could decipher in the 21st century. But what if the truth is exactly the opposite? What if the ancients did not live in doubt, but in a clarity that we, isolated in apartments, fragmented routines, and recommendation algorithms, have simply forgotten how to see? The question nobody asks is simple. How did communities without writing, without registries, without laboratories, and without the slightest idea of a Y chromosome, manage to identify biological fathers with a precision that did not depend on machines, but on something far rarer these days: sustained attention? It is tempting to answer that they guessed, that the matter was settled by eyeballing it, by the resemblance of a nose, or by the force of a patriarch who imposed his version of history with a sideways glance. But that explanation is too convenient. It serves more to comfort us than to explain anything. Projecting onto the ancients the same fragmentation we live now is an error of perspective. Ancestral societies did not operate in the darkness of privacy. They operated in the light of proximity. And paternity, for them, was never a hidden fact waiting to be revealed by an email. It was a visible pattern, waiting to be read by those who knew how to look. Let us untie the knot of assumption. The first thing we forget is that pregnancy was not a private matter locked behind a door with a "do not disturb" sign. It was a community event, a rhythm marked by the seasons, by the harvest, by the brightness of the moon, by the availability of food. The windows of conception were narrow, known, and culturally monitored. When a child was born, the group did not just look at the shape of an ear or the color of hair. They looked at the body in motion. Anthropologists who have spent decades studying hunter-gatherer societies and traditional communities have recorded a fascinating detail. Babies, within the first few months, begin to mirror micro-expressions, postures, vocal cadences, and stress response patterns of a specific adult. Long before they speak, they already dance to the rhythm of those who welcome them. The ancients did not need magnetic resonance imaging to notice this. They had time. They observed who calmed the crying with the right touch, who walked with a step the child tried to imitate, who brought food that the child's instinct already recognized. They read biology through repetition, not through examination. They did not need a laboratory to read what coexistence had already written. But observation, no matter how sharp, did not resolve conflicts when honor, resources, or the survival of the group were at stake. What happened when precision needed to be socially secured? Here enters the invisible architecture of kinship. And this is where the story gets strange. Many ancient cultures did not treat paternity as a single event, closed and exclusive. In indigenous groups of the Amazon, such as the Bari and the Ache, there is what scholars call shared paternity. A child can have more than one recognized father. The man who provided the genetic material was recorded, yes, but so was the man who hunted for the mother during pregnancy, who participated in protection rituals, who shared food, and assumed public responsibility. This was not biological confusion. It was pure social strategy. By expanding the network of recognized fathers, these communities reduced infant mortality, distributed resources more stably, and, most importantly, avoided lethal conflicts between men over reproductive access. Meanwhile, in the earliest agrarian societies of the Fertile Crescent and the Mediterranean, lineage was sealed by public witness. Births were collective declarations. Elders, neighbors, and ritual guardians recorded the time of conception using agricultural calendars, seasonal markers, and rites of passage. A man's claim was not validated by a test. It was validated by a chain of witnessed moments, repeated across seasons, recorded in oral memory, and reinforced by the honor of the group. They were not guessing, they were mapping. But why did this mapping work so well? What happened inside the human mind that made this system viable without a single test tube? Because the brain evolved in environments where tracking kinship was not an intellectual exercise. It was raw survival. Our ancestors did not recognize only faces. They recognized patterns of investment, tension, loyalty, and protection. Studies in social neuroscience show that our prefrontal cortex and our default mode network respond differently when we observe familiar rhythms versus unfamiliar ones. Ancient humans were essentially running an unconscious algorithm of kinship. They read microtensions in muscles, distribution of food, protective instinct, emotional resonance. Certainty about paternity reduced internal violence, increased cooperation in hunting, stabilized the sharing of resources, and strengthened alliances. The brain did not need a genetic report to calculate risk and reward. It used continuous social feedback. Biology was visible because behavior was public. And we, who today pay $190 to discover that we have 0.3% Neanderthal DNA and then post it in the family group chat, have forgotten that the most precise instrument ever invented to read bonds still sits inside our skulls. It just stopped being used. And yet we treat this as if it were merely a detail of the past. The discomfort arises when we realize that ancestral transparency was not naivety. It was adaptive intelligence. Because the story of paternity is, above all, the story of how humans trade uncertainty for cohesion. We have shifted from a culture of witnessed presence to a culture of isolated verification. We have stopped trusting the eyes of the group and started trusting the output of the machine. We have gained biological precision, but we have lost something older than DNA. The idea that paternity is not just a genetic event, but a sustained pattern of recognition, responsibility, and public anchoring. The ancients understood that lineage is not just blood. It is who shows up, who is remembered, who is permitted to occupy a place in the narrative of the clan. And this did not remain in a realm of ideas. This shapes entire civilizations. Observe Neolithic burial sites. The skeletons were not arranged at random. There are consistent genetic groupings, yes, but there was also deliberate social positioning. Children were buried not only near biological parents, but near those who carried their names, their future roles, their obligations to the group. Legal codes in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt did not list only property. They listed witnesses. A father's claim was validated by who saw the pregnancy progress, who shared meals, who defended the mother in childbirth, who assumed the risk of feeding another mouth. Taboos around infidelity were not merely moral. They were ecological. They protected flows of resources, prevented ruptures in alliances, maintained the cohesion of the group. The entire social fabric was woven around visible lineage, traceable, and communally verified. Certainty did not come from a document. It came from a network. And still, we act as if we have invented precision. Today, you buy a test online, send a sample in a plain envelope, and receive a percentage within days. But that number does not tell you who will stay awake when the fever does not break. It does not tell you who will teach the child to read the world, who will remember their first words, who will stand beside them when the ground shakes. The ancients did not have our technology, but they had our humanity. They knew that certainty is not found in a result. It is built in the silent repetition of presence. We have outsourced the question to science because we have stopped paying attention to the answer that was already before our eyes. So, what does this reveal about us? That we have traded visibility for privacy and called it progress. That we have isolated a fact that should be shared and called it individual rights. That we measure bonds with machines and call it truth. Ancestral paternity was not an enigma. It was a mirror. It showed who invested, who remained, who aligned themselves to the rhythm of another. We have fragmented this, and now we spend fortunes to reconstruct, in numbers, what was already written in daily life. Let us return to the beginning, to that silent expectation in front of the screen, to the anxiety of waiting for an email that says, once and for all, who the father is. We have always assumed that the ancients lived in a fog of doubt, speculating about origins, stumbling in the darkness of biology. But they did not live in fog. They lived in a web of observed cycles, mirrored behaviors, shared memory, and publicly anchored responsibility. We did not discover paternity. We simply forgot how to see it. The machines we have built to answer the oldest question of the human species are only as precise as the attention we have stopped giving to one another. Perhaps the true test was never biological. Perhaps it has always been about who stays long enough to be known.